What do you also think of, just as an aside, what do you think are some of the best Twilight Zone teleplays, and what do you think are his best teleplays, period?
I don't remember all the names of the Twilight Zone ones. So I can't get into that.
I would
Certainly,
put
some of
Walking Distance and Five Characters in Search of an Exit
yeah,
as the best.
they're both up there. The one he tended to repeat himself in the last couple of years, doing sort of lesser iterations of the stuff. Um, the one to serve man was based on an interesting story, and it's kind of funny, humorous. The one there's an early there are a number of ones where time bends or something. When he's at his worst when he's preachy. For example, there's the one where an American soldier is on Guadalcanal or somewhere, and he then morphs to become a Japanese soldier, and it gets a little obvious and preachy. The ones that are less obvious and preachy to me are the best ones. Uh, uh, he did a couple with Mickey Rooney, um, and I
God.
could the one with Mickey Rooney is a jockey who supposedly gets bigger and bigger inside his room, and he can't be a jockey anymore. That wasn't good. The I'm trying to think of some of the ones. Uh, there's the famous one with William Shatner on with the Gremlin on the airplane. But I actually think a more interesting one is the one where Shatner plays a guy who's pulling out fortune cards from.
Yes.
He's putting a nickel into a little clown face fortune card thing, and there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing supernatural in that one. It's a great 30-minute piece on addiction though, because nothing supernatural happens in that. It's just about this guy having an addiction, and I don't know if Serling wrote that one, but that's a real good one. There's the famous one about the Howling Man with the devil being locked up, and the guy who unleashed him in the late 30s and now has captured the devil again. Uh, uh, but those are a little bit over the top. There's another famous one about the UFO with the little astronauts that turn out to be Earthlings. But some of them are ruined by some of the bad special effects. That one was not as effective as it could have been because in no way does do those little robotic little spacemen look even remotely human in the way they move, the way we saw Neil Armstrong move just a few years later. Um, so
That's
the
why I posit Walking Distance is perhaps the best, at least of just a single character, because the visuals are so well done too, and the performance by Gig Young, that's a great performance.
another good
His
one,
his interaction with his father
another
is
good
great
one
too.
is the guy who's an advertising executive, but he wants to go to Willoughby, and it turns out Willoughby,
Yes,
yeah, Willoughby turns out to be the name of the hearse or the
yes,
funeral home.
that's a great twist.
Yeah,
Have you ever seen Carol for Another Christmas?
is that the one with Art Carney?
It's not with Art Carney. It's with Sterling Hayden. This is a different one. This is outside of the Twilight Zone. It's a telefilm he did in 1964, and he did it for the United Nations. Now it contains it's a version of the Christmas Carol.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure if you'd be able to access it because it's so rare, but I seen it on one of these stations, and it has some of the worst of Rod Serling, but also some of the best. And I actually think the ending where the de facto Scrooge, played by Sterling Hayden, is a better ending than any of the other Christmas Carol iterations because he changes a little bit, but not that much.
Hmm.
Whereas the Christmas Carol ending, I've always found very schmaltzy and silly and not realistic in the least.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah. As far as the actual teleplays, the most famous ones are Patterns, which made his name, and then Requiem for Heavyweight. I have to look at. I know that I've seen those two on a PBS series that I later got the DVD for, and I think they have a third one of his on that DVD. It's the one with Mickey Rooney, I think, where Mickey Rooney is an asshole Ernie Kovacs type 1950s television star who abuses people. I know that I had seen in the 1970s before PBS did this series uh, on Golden Age television, which I have the DVD for. I do remember New York Public Television did rebroadcast some of the kinescopes for some of the Playhouse 90s. And there probably was some Serlings there. Unfortunately, they haven't, as far as I know, none of the screenplays or none of the teleplays have been published in publication form. They should be. Hopefully, Serling's daughter will get on that because she's got a publishing company. I think that's a valuable thing they could do. One thing that I did kind of feel a little bit was silly was when their publishing company wants to publish only stories that are in that Rod Serling twist kind of ending with his kind of viewpoint. I just never have understood why any publishers want to just publish only one type of thing, one type of viewpoint, one type of story or whatnot.